Hi there, this is Chris, Chap and Account Motor Legends. Today I want to talk to you about a new suit from the American adventure brand Klim. It's a suit that's called the Baja S4. And please don't forget, if you like what you hear, if you like what you see, please like and subscribe. This is the new Baja S4 suit. It's billed as an upgrade to its predecessor that's been around for quite a few years now. But let's get this out there from the off. There isn't really a huge amount of difference between the old suit and the new one. The design is basically the same. What they've done, they've moved the fabrics around. They've created a different pattern for the fabrics. So you get a little bit more of this stuff, a little bit less of this stuff, and a little bit more of this stuff. And what that means is that the suit is going to flow a little bit more air and it's going to be a little bit more comfortable to wear. But put it like this, if you've got the old version, there's no real reason to consider changing it for the new one. Anyway, even though the new Baja is substantively the same as the old one, we're going to take a step back and look at what the Baja suit is, where it sits in the Klim firmament, what kind of riding it's intended for, who it's aimed at, and so on. Everybody knows Klim as the adventure brand. Every manufacturer, of course, wants to slice the adventure market, but it has to be acknowledged that Klim, more than any other brand, owns the adventure space. There are lots of pretenders to this crown, but when it comes to adventure riding, Klim is still the name. Now, as a company, we have always been a little bit at odds with Klim about what constitutes the perfect adventure suit. Klim is of the view that the ideal adventure suit comes with a laminated membrane and lots of vents. Well, we fundamentally disagree. And that's because for us, adventure riding connotes hot and exotic locations, perhaps even working up a sweat on the gnarly stuff. And in any of these scenarios, you do not want to be wearing anything with a waterproof membrane. However well vented your jacket or your pant is, a membrane will always get in the way of the sweating process. And sweating, of course, is how we stay cool. Now, in America, there are lots of off-road trails, fire trails and the like. You might be riding them for hours on end. It won't always, of course, be blisteringly hot, and the riding is not always necessarily massively technical. And in such scenarios, a laminated waterproof suit might conceivably make sense. But for us in Europe, and what we consider to be adventure riding, a waterproof suit seems less appropriate. Now, in Europe, a proper adventure suit will normally have a removable waterproof liner. In an ideal world, this liner will also be wearable on the outside. But the important thing is that when the going gets tough, you can remove the waterproof element to make the garment more breathable. Now, Klim doesn't actually have a suit in their range that has a removable waterproof, but they do have a number of suits with no membrane at all. So we're talking about suits like the Marrakesh, the Induction Pro, and of course this suit, the Baja S4. And all of these will work well according to our definition of adventure riding. Anyway, let's take a look at the Klim Airflow range of outfits in an attempt to understand where exactly the Baja S4 sits. Klim divides its collection into road and adventure categories. On the road side, the Kodiak sits at the very top of the tree. Below it, although in some ways, in our view, it's a slightly nicer suit, is the Latitude. Both of these are Gore-Tex laminated outfits. The Induction suit, which in many ways is very similar to the Baja S4, also sits in the road section. Like the Baja S4, it's got no membrane at all. It's all about airflow. Then, of course, there's the Marrakesh, which again, Klim classifies as a road get-up. And I think we can see this, even though we think it can work really well off-road too. The issue with the Marrakesh as a suit, however, is that the leg of the pant is so narrow that you can hardly get them over anything larger than an ankle boot. Now, Klim moved to this narrower leg a few years ago, and we feel they probably did this to prevent it cannibalizing sales from their off-road collection, although, of course, nobody is ever going to admit that. When it comes to Klim's off-road and adventure range, there are two laminated suits. There's the Badlands and the Carlsbad. The Badlands is their top-of-the-line outfit. Truth be told, it doesn't really work for us. It's too heavy and too cumbersome to ride off-road in our view. In fact, in a meeting with Klim's product designers last year, we noticed that they were starting to refer to the Badlands as the suit for the world traveller. And I can buy into that. If you wanted to travel around the world, be protected from the worst that the elements could throw at you and ride in something that could stand up to sustained abuse, the Badlands would be a great option. But it's still too much of a suit for most of us, I would contend. Now, one below the Badlands is the Carlsbad. It's a potentially much easier suit to live with than the Badlands, but it is still laminated, so not the perfect adventure suit in our book. The other key suit in Klim's adventure range is the suit that is the subject of today's review, and that is this suit, the Baja S4. As already mentioned, the Baja S4 in concept is very similar to the company's Induction Pro. The chassis of the jacket is made up from a number of different materials. A large part of it is constructed from the same stretch-infused 1000 denier Cordura that is used throughout the Marrakesh, and it's this material that gives the Baja its comfort. Now, this material in its own right is highly breathable. We've seen that from our experience with the Marrakesh, but that material doesn't flow anywhere near as much air as the Schoeller-Dynatec mesh fabric that runs all the way down the front of the jacket. And I've got to say, it's the sheer volume of this mesh that marks the biggest difference between the old Baja S4 and the new one. Now, there's more of this mesh on the biceps, on the forearms, and across the back. So there's no two ways about it. This jacket is going to flow a huge amount of air, as much certainly as any jacket that we've ever come across. In a few areas, such as here on the shoulders, at the end of the sleeves and on the hem, there's a 750 denier Cordura. In terms of protection, the suit rates AA under EN 17092 for abrasion resistance. For protection from impacts, the jacket is equipped with level 1 D30 XTR armour in the shoulders and the elbows. The jacket also comes as standard with a level 1 back protector. Now, when you're riding off-road, abrasion resistance, the abrasion resistance of the outer fabric of your garment is rarely an issue. And that's because sliding is not what you tend to do if you part company with the bike when things go wrong off-road. What causes problems when you're riding off-road is hitting stuff, and that's where the armour comes in. And so, whilst the AA rating of the jacket for abrasion resistance is perhaps reassuring, the level 1 armour, I have to say, is somewhat less so. And so, if we were headed off-road in the Baja S4, I think the first thing we would do is upgrade the armour to level 2, or elect to ride in a body armour suit. None, by the way, being nicer than the one produced by Rucker, and that comes with Rucker's own huge bespoke level 2 D30 armour. On the elbows and shoulders you get panels of super fabric. This is a highly abrasion resistant fabric that is made from small ceramic balls. It's what Rucker used to use on their high-end suits until it became too expensive. It's got to be said, impressive stuff, and undoubtedly makes a contribution to the Baja jacket's AA accreditation. In some ways, however, the Baja S4 is a fairly simple bit of kit, so there aren't loads of fancy bells and whistles. You get a couple of hooks to hold the collar of the jacket open if it's really hot. There are adjuster straps on the biceps. The sleeves fasten with Velcro flaps, but you do not get zips. There are 2 lower pockets, or is it 4? You can use them as hand warmer pockets, or you can use zips if you want to keep stuff in them safe, obviously. There are no upper pockets, and that's because, quite rightly, Klim doesn't want you putting things into them to interrupt the flow of air into the jacket's mesh panelling. Some people will bemoan the loss of the top entry flat pockets of the old jacket. They're a bit more adventure looking, I suppose. There are 2 more zip pockets in the jacket's mesh lining. You also get a couple of mesh pouches in the lining, perfect for your phone and stuff. There's a credit card pocket on the sleeve, whilst on the back there's a large map pocket. Behind the back protector there's a pocket for a bladder. There you'll also find one of Klim's famous hidden pockets. In the hem there's an elasticated adjuster cord to enable the waist to be cinched in a little, and that's going to come in handy because, as with the Marrakesh, the Baja just doesn't come in enough sizes. It comes in just 6 sizes. If this jacket came from somebody like Rucker, it would be available in at least 11 sizes. What 6 sizes means is that not infrequently the jacket is going to be too big for somebody, especially given the fact that the jacket already has quite a boxy shape. Now, the problem is, as with the Marrakesh, that with only 6 sizes, a lot of people are going to fall between the sizes. So somebody will find that the medium, for example, is too small for them, and they'll end up having to go to the large, which is sometimes too big for them. And in such circumstances, cinching in the hem could often help make the jacket look a little bit more fitted. In addition, there's a lots of 3M carbon black reflective material on the jacket, and you get a short zip that allows you to connect the jacket to a Klim pant. If it's the case that there's not a whole lot of difference between the old Baja jacket and the new one, there's probably even less between the new pant and the old one. The patterning of the various panels on the pant has changed, and what that means is that they might end up being a little bit more comfortable than the old ones. They might end up flowing a little bit more air. In terms of construction, you get areas of 1000 denier stretch Cordura. That's the same material that you find on the Marrakesh, and that's what gives the pants their comfort. There are then panels of Schoeller-Dynatec mesh, and it's those panels that really flow the air. They flow much more air than the material on the Marrakesh. You also get some 750 denier Cordura for added strength in the seat, in the waistband and in the hem. There's super fabric for extra abrasion resistance on the knees. Now, as with the jacket, the pant delivers almost unparalleled levels of airflow while still maintaining a fairly impressive AA accreditation for abrasion resistance. The armour in the knees and the hips is D3O's highly vented XTR armour. It is level 1, as with the jacket. Obviously, this can be upgraded to level 2, and for the kind of serious off-road riding that the Baja is intended for, we'd give some consideration to that. Or, as with the jacket, you could wear something like Rucker's AFT pants that come with Rucker's bespoke D3O level 2 armour. It's absolutely huge, but you get these huge protectors on the hips and on the knees. You get an adjusting mechanism on the waist of the pant and obviously a connecting zip. There's leather that runs up the inside of the legs, but this is more about grip on the tank than about protection per se. The flat pockets that came on the old pants have been replaced by billows pockets with zips. Not everybody will see that as an upgrade, however. There are adjuster straps on the calves, and this will allow you to compensate for the size of your adventure boots to cinch the leg of the pant in around the boot. The pants have been designed to be worn over the very largest off-road boots, however. Make no mistake, these are very, very much off-road pants. And they're going to look daft if you try to wear them over a pair of Daytonas or some other touring boot. Of course, they're going to look even daft if you try to wear them over a pair of ankle boots. Frankly, if you're not going to be wearing proper adventure or off-road boots, these probably are just not the pants for you. Oh, and because the pants have been designed to go over the largest boots, there are long zips and adjustable flaps at the ends of the legs. As with the jacket, you also get lots of carbon reflective stuff for better nighttime visibility. The Baja S4 suit is a very specialist bit of kit. For what it does, it is probably the best on the market, but it is pretty extreme. It simply is not for everybody. I had a guy in the shop recently who had bought a new Baja S4 from another retailer. He told me that he had bought it for commuting into work. I said nothing, I didn't want to upset him, but he had almost certainly got overexcited and bought the wrong bit of kit. The Baja S4 is about two things. It's about riding off-road and it's about maximum airflow. And it's only going to work for you if you want or need both of those things. If you want airflow but do most of your riding on-road, you'll almost certainly be better off with Klim's induction outfit or even the Marrakesh. Now, the induction pants may not work over the very largest Alpensars, Tech 7s, whatever their latest biggest boot is, but they will work fine over most adventure boots. The difference between the induction and Baja jackets is going to be fit. The Baja will be looser and boxier, and it's like this to make it easier to move around on the bike when you're riding off-road. The Induction Pro jacket flows as much air as the Baja. It's just as protective and it's just as comfortable, but its slimmer design will simply work much better on the road. The problem with both jackets, however, is that they're going to flow too much air for regular road riding. Even on the nicest summer's day here in the UK, the Baja jacket is probably going to be too cold to ride in. Obviously, you can layer up. You can put on things like Klim's Maverick down jacket or Klim's Windproof Zephyr, but even those garments will not be able to cope with the amount of air that is sometimes going to flow through the chest panels to the core. This is not the jacket, this is not the suit you buy just because you've got yourself a new adventure bike or because you want something that matches the colour of your paintwork. This is the jacket you want to be wearing in the Sahara, in the jungle, or when you're tearing up the trails on the Tet in the middle of summer. But if there's a danger that the jacket will flow too much air, it's even more of an issue with the pants. And that's because there's no Zephyr windproof for your legs, nor is there a Maverick legging, although Rucker does do a down inner pant called the Down Y. Sorry, it's called the Down X. But this is where we get to. Adventure bike riders are no different to sports bike riders or retro bike riders. Everybody wants to join a gang. Everybody wants to be seen in the right gear. Be that a one-piece leather suit, a waxed cotton jacket, or an outfit that shouts, "Look at me, I'm an international globetrotter." But much as we think that the Baja S4 is a wonderful bit of kit, think twice. We'd even go far as to say that it will almost never be the right suit for riding in the UK. And that's because you'll get colder in this suit and faster than you would do in just about any other outfit we've ever come across. Now, given that all of this is coming from Moto Legends, some people might think that our conclusion is somewhat predictable. But we actually think that most bikers over here in the UK would be better off in a Marrakesh. It's still going to flow a lot of air, it's more comfortable than the Baja, yet it's just as protective, and certainly the jacket looks a lot less, I don't know, bikey. The Marrakesh pants, it has to be admitted, won't work over large boots, but if that's important to you, you could always go for Klim's switchback pants or their outrider pants. Obviously, here at Moto Legends, we often wear the Marrakesh over a pair of our Roka single layer jeans. Finally, of course, let's talk about waterproofing. If it rains, you're going to get very wet very quickly in the Baja S4 because this mesh is not going to be any kind of barriers to the rain. Now, Klim recommends for this suit that you buy their Enduro S4 waterproof outers. And yes, even though they're not Gore-Tex in the way that they used to be, we have no doubt that they're going to work very well. But you'll pay £800 for a waterproof top and bottom. And so we cannot see why you wouldn't just go for a set of Scots at £170. That means you could get almost 5 sets of Scots for one set of Enduro S4s. And for us, that's just a bit of a no-brainer. Well, I hope you found that interesting. I hope you like the Baja S4 suit. If you'd like to see more Klim gear, if you'd like to see more Airflow suits, then visit the website motolegends.com. If you'd like to learn more about the Baja S4 in particular, click on one of the links on the screen. Sometimes they're up there, sometimes they're down there. When you do that, that will take you to a dedicated page on the website, and when you're there, you can check out the spec in a little bit more detail. You can check on availability, and if you want to buy the suit or the jacket or the pant, you can do that there and then. Now, when you buy from us, we try to make the process simple, straightforward, and risk-free as we possibly can. There's no delivery charge on any item of protected wear that you buy from us. Returns are totally free, and what's more, we give you a full 12 months to decide whether you do want to return something to us. We have far and away the best price promise in the business. Now, many years ago, John Lewis was rightly famed for its never knownly undersold price promise. We go one stage better. If you can find any of our competitors selling anything that we sell at a price that is below ours, we will beat that retailer's price by a full 10%. Now, there are a few terms and conditions associated with what we call our price beat. Nothing particularly onerous, I can assure you, but if you are going to attempt to price beat us, I suggest you go over to the website and check out what those terms and conditions are. If in the future you would like to see email bulletins from us about new products, then if you go to the website, at the top of the page, there's a piece of script that says newsletter sign up. Click on there, within seconds you'll be in business. In future, you'll receive all of our emails. If, however, you prefer to get your information videographically, that is to say in this form, we'd be simply delighted if you wanted to become a subscriber to our YouTube channel, and you can do that by clicking on the button below. Finally, I'd like to make mention of our fabulous little shop here at Moto Legends. It's based about a mile from the railway station, a mile from the centre of Guildford. As I mentioned, it's a small shop, it's got a small footprint, but arranged over 3 floors here, we have some £4 million of motorcycle merchandise, and that makes this the second largest motorcycle apparel shop in the UK. But we'd like to think of us as more than just the amount of merchandise we have here in the building. We are all about service, we are all about personal fitting. If you want to check us out, visit Trustpilot. We have the highest 5-star ranking in the business. And when you come to see us, we'll serve you only the finest Italian illy coffee, or we'll serve you proper Yorkshire tea in a proper teapot. And who knows, if you're really lucky, you might even get to sample one of our delicious motorcycle-shaped shortbread biscuits. Anyway, this has been Chris. I hope to talk to you again soon.